By now, most of us have interacted with ChatGPT, either in the ChatGPT app, in a web browser, or in the applications that we're building. It's very powerful and undeniably helpful, but I've often wondered what it would be like if it was slightly more personal, like through a phone call powered by Twilio. Hello?
Hey there, how can I help brighten your day today?
Can you tell me a joke about owls?
Of course. What do you call an owl who's a magician? Houdini.
That sounds fun, so let's build it. We're going to build an AI voice assistant with Twilio Voice and OpenAI's Realtime API. To get started, we need to square away a few prereqs. You're going to need Node.js 18+, you'll need a Twilio account, as well as a Twilio phone number with voice capabilities. You're also going to need an OpenAI account, plus an OpenAI API key that has access to OpenAI's Realtime API. If you need any help with any of these prereqs, we've got a blog post in the description below this video. We'll start by creating a directory to hold our Node application, and then we'll change directories into that new project location and run npm init-y. And while we're here, we'll also set the package type for our project to module. Once that's done, we'll use npm to install the dependencies that we'll need for this project, which are Fastify, WS for WebSockets, .env, and then a few modules for Fastify, the form body, and the WebSocket modules. Once those are done installing, I'll open everything up in a code editor and we'll get started. Inside of our project, we'll create a couple of files here. The first one is a .env file, which will store our OpenAI API key, which you can add here by typing in OpenAI_API_key equals, and then putting in your OpenAI API key here. Next, we'll create index.js, which will hold our application. To kick things off in index.js, we'll import the dependencies we're using in the application. We're using WebSockets to connect to both Twilio media streams and OpenAI's Realtime API. We're using .env to load in our API key, and we're using Fastify as a web framework along with its form body and WebSocket modules. Next, we'll run .env.config, which will populate process.env with the values from our .env file, which will give us access to our OpenAI API key, which we'll store in a local constant and then check to make sure it exists. Next, we'll instantiate the Fastify web framework, as well as registering the form body and WebSocket modules. Next, we'll set up some constants for our application. The first is a system message. This we will pass to OpenAI's Realtime API to let the assistant know how to behave. Here we're telling it it's a helpful, bubbly AI assistant who has a penchant for dad jokes, owl jokes, and the occasional rickroll, because hey, we're Twilio, and we're never going to give that one up. Next, we'll set up a constant for the voice the AI assistant will use. We're going to set it to Alloy. There are other options in OpenAI's documentation if you want to explore. Then we'll set up the port that our application will run on, either from environment variable named port or 50/50 by default. Next, we'll start configuring the routes for our Fastify web application, starting with /. Here, we're just returning a message Twilio media stream server is running, which we'll test when we start the application server later. Next is the route that will respond to an incoming voice call at our Twilio number at /incoming-call. This route returns TWIML, which is a set of XML instructions that tell Twilio what to do with the incoming call. We start with a say tag that reads a message, then we pause for a second, then we read another message that tells the caller that they can begin speaking. Then we use a connect tag to connect the Twilio media stream for this call to a WebSocket endpoint at /media-stream that we'll write in a moment. This WebSocket connection will enable us to proxy audio between our Twilio call over to OpenAI's Realtime API. Now let's write that media-stream endpoint. This endpoint is going to use Fastify's WebSocket support. The first thing we're going to do here is just log a message letting us know that the client has been connected. Next, we'll create a WebSocket connection to the OpenAI Realtime API. To do that, we'll create a new WebSocket object. We'll pass in the URL to the OpenAI Realtime API model, and then pass in our credentials to authenticate with the service. We'll create a constant to store the stream ID. Next, we'll configure a session update object that will be sent whenever the WebSocket connects to configure the OpenAI session. Turn detection sets up voice activity detection. The input and output audio format is set to G711 ULAW, which is required for Twilio media streams. Voice sets the voice that will be used by the AI assistant. Instructions influences the AI assistant using that system message that we set up earlier that tells it it's a bubbly assistant that tells jokes occasionally. Modalities allows for both text and audio interactions with the API, and the temperature controls randomness within the assistant. Next, let's set up the events that can be fired by this WebSocket connection. We'll start with open. When open runs, we're going to send that session update object to configure the AI assistant session on the real-time API. Now we need to respond to incoming messages on this OpenAI WebSocket connection. If we receive a session updated message, that means that the session update object was received successfully. If instead we receive a response.audio.delta message, that means we've received some audio back from OpenAI that we need to encode and then send back to media streams back to the call. Now let's turn to the Twilio Media Streams WebSocket connection and handle messages that it sends. The first message that this will send is start, and when this runs, we'll just log out the stream ID to the console when it starts up. Next, we need to handle the media message. This message gets sent when we have audio coming from Twilio Media Stream that we need to send to OpenAI. So as long as the OpenAI WebSocket is open, we'll package up that audio in a buffer append and send it off to the OpenAI WebSocket. If we receive a message that's not start or media, that means we've received a non-media message, and we don't really care about that in this application, so we'll just log that out to the console so that we know that it happened. Down in the catch block, we'll log any errors that might occur out to console.error, but hopefully, if all goes well, we won't have any. Our WebSocket fun finishes with 3 more events, 2 that handle when the WebSocket connections close, and 1 that handles any errors that may occur on the OpenAI WebSocket connection. With all of that in place, we're finally ready to run fastify.listen to spin up our web server on port 5050 or whatever port you configured in your environment variable port. Now we're ready to start our application by running node.index.js, which will spin up a web server on localhost port 5050. Only one problem: Twilio can't reach localhost port 5050, so I'll use ngrok to create an HTTP tunnel to access my application from a public URL. We'll start up in a new terminal, ngrok http 5050, and then I'll add my subdomain brent.ngrok.io. This creates an HTTP tunnel that'll tunnel traffic from brent.ngrok.io forward to our localhost port 5050 web application. If we head over to a web browser, we can test that slash route that we wrote by heading to brent.ngrok.io and see the Twilio Media Stream server is running. Heading over to the Twilio console, I'll go to the phone number that I want to set this application up on, scroll down to where it says a call comes in, and update the URL there to say brent.ngrok.io/incoming-call. Next, we'll scroll down to the bottom of the page and hit the Save Configuration button to save the configuration for our URL. To test our application, I'm going to use the Twilio Dev Phone. You can find out more about the Dev Phone from the link appearing on screen or down in the description below this video, but the Dev Phone is a very handy way to test your Twilio applications. All I need to do is punch in the phone number I would like to call, and then hit the call button, and we can call our app.
Please wait while we connect your call to the AI voice assistant, powered by Twilio and the OpenAI Realtime API. Okay, you can start talking.
Hi there, how's it going?
Hey there, how can I help you today?
I was wondering if you could tell me a good owl joke.
Of course. How about this one? What does an owl say when it goes trick-or-treating? Happy Halloween.
Oh, that's really good and very topical. Halloween is coming up soon.
I'm glad you liked it. Halloween is such a fun time of the year. Do you have any exciting plans for it?
Not really. I was wondering though, are you ever going to give me up?
Ooh, I think I know where this is going. And I'm never going to give you up, never going to let you down. Gotcha.
That's perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Quick shout out to Paul, Camp, and Dominic for this fantastic blog post and all of the reviewers that were involved. If you want to go through this blog post, please head to the link in the description. We've also dropped links to code exchange samples that you can quickly deploy to get started with OpenAI's real-time API. I hope you have fun building this, and let us know in the comments if there's something else you want to see on the channel.